What's up, folks? This is Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards, and today I'm here to talk to you about my 5 favorite city campaign supplements. Coming in at number 5 is Absalom, specifically the Beetle and Grimm edition of Absalom. This actually hurts me a little bit to place it here because Beetles and Grimm did an awesome job with this product. The original book from Paizo, I felt like was pretty much just a history book for a world that didn't exist, for a city that didn't exist. There wasn't a lot of meat on the bones, and I didn't really think that the seeds for adventure were quite enough to really do enough of the legwork for a GM that wanted to use that. However, Beetle and Grimm added enough in the way of these excellent props, very cool props, a ton of maps. There's also this entire tube of maps. They've got these cards for NPCs and locations with some information about the NPCs on the back. And they took the huge, like 400-page tome and broke it down into all these little bite-sized books for the different quarters. There's one in there for the city proper, and then there's a couple that are NPCs. Also, it had a specialized GM screen. That's all great. Unfortunately, Absalom itself is a bit too much of a default type city setting for my taste. It's been done many times before Paizo did it, and I don't think there's enough to make it unique to warrant it being any higher than number 5. However, that being said, the folks at Beetle and Grimm's gave a lot of extras that makes it a little bit more appreciated, in my eyes at least. One thing with the Absalom book, and that carries over into this product as well, is that Paizo did not stat much out. There's not a lot of crunch in here at all. It is mainly just a travel guide / history book for, like I said, a city that doesn't even really exist. Now that being said, Beetle and Grimm's did include a few adventures, so those are going to have some stats in them. But otherwise, very vague in their descriptions of the NPC abilities, and just not a lot of meat on the bone, a lot of walls of text. But there is a lot of text there, and there is a rich history. So that is my number 5, Absalom. And here's number 4. This is Epsilon City. As you can see by the box here, I clearly do like my boxed sets. And this is a similarly boxed product to the last one. But it comes with a adventure book, comes with a special new character option, and comes with some maps of a section of the spaceship. And of course, this is Epsilon City for the Metamorphosis Alpha game. This is a Goodman Games product, so I know that the quality is something that I expect of them. But even for Goodman Games, this one kind of surprised me because they did something I have not seen in a product outside of maybe some books that I have seen for educational purposes. But this is leather bound, but also spiral bound, which I think is just very cool. It's got a map inside the front cover, and this details what is essentially a ruined city. Epsilon City was designed as kind of a utopian community, and different sections of the city were based on different periods of human history. So there's like a Cherokee section, there's an Egyptian section, there's a Roman section, so on and so forth. But because this takes place 300 years after the Great Tragedy, everything has been mutated, or the robots have gone crazy and everything is dangerous. But it is still technically adventuring in an abandoned city that has been taken over by monsters, wolfoids, lizardmen, and so forth. There is a ton of information in here. I'm honestly thinking I will probably use this for a Mutant Crawl Classics game rather than a Metamorphosis Alpha game, but there is a lot of good stuff in here and a lot of crunch to go along with the fluff, and it is, unlike the Absalom box, definitely not like anything else that I have seen before. It is an awesome product. If you're into sci-fi, pick up this while there's still some relatively inexpensive copies around. This is Epsilon City for Metamorphosis Alpha by Goodman Games, coming in at number 4. Coming in at number 3, I have Linkmar by Goodman Games for Dungeon Crawl Classics. So this is another box set. As you can see, you get a couple of nice maps, one of the city, one of the area of Newan that surround the city. You get a judge's screen. I'm not a big fan of judge's screens that have information on the outside of the screen for player-facing information. I'd rather just have some art for them, but that's okay. It also comes with 4 books. It's got the Judge's Guide to Newan that has some magic in it, some monsters that are specific to Newan. It has some gods and some patrons, and just some general information about developing a Newanian campaign in Linkmar. It has some nice tables for things to see in Linkmar on the back. There is the City of the Black Toga book. This actually goes into the different districts of Linkmar, and more interesting than that, there's actually a full neighborhood generation tool that's several pages long that you can use to create a specialized neighborhood for your characters to use as their HQ that gives it some character. But there's plenty of details for each of the other neighborhoods as well. And then on the back, you've got a random street name generator. Then you have the secret knowledge, the compendium of secret knowledge. This has the changes to the rules that you'll find in a Linkmar campaign versus a regular Dungeon Crawl Classics campaign, how the classes might work a little bit different, how luck works different, and why you don't have a funnel. Then on the back, you have some nice luck tokens that you can copy and use because the luck works a little bit different in Linkmar 2. They have what's called fleeting luck, which is a more usable luck system. It's almost like a cipher version of the luck system is what I would say. Very meta currency type of situation. And then the last book is an adventure called No Small Crimes in Linkmar. Have not played through this, but I've read through it. It's very interesting, and I've read lots of good things about it. I think it is a very well designed adventure. So this box set gives you enough information that you could easily play in the city of Linkmar for probably months, if not years, and never really go beyond the gates of the city, and you could have a lot of fun here. So this is my number 3, Linkmar for Dungeon Crawl Classics by Goodman Games. Here's my number 2 out of all of my city campaign supplements that I enjoy. This is going to be Volos Guide to Waterdeep by Ed Greenwood. Now, I kind of knocked Absalom for not having enough crunch, and Volos Guide is similarly guilty. But the difference is Volos Guide is one book, And when it came out, it was $9.95. So now it'd probably be about a $20 book. So still very inexpensive. Came with this nice fold-out map of the city that is all numbered and notated. And the thing I liked about it was that it very much felt like it was written from the perspective of somebody that would have walked the streets of Waterdeep and would have actually given their honest opinion on what inns they liked and what taverns they enjoyed, the meals that they had at Felden's, and the prices and whatnot, and the interesting things that you could find. This was written basically like a travel guide, and while that's a popular way to do a city campaign supplement now, like the Dark of Swordfish Isle and some others that we're going to talk about in a minute, whenever this was done, it was very uncommon. And as Waterdeep, even though it's not really unique, it's kind of a, again, same thing that I knocked Absalom for. Waterdeep is a pretty typical fantasy city that has a little bit of kitchen sink to it and a little bit of everything. But the way this is written, it really doesn't feel as if it is being stretched to add page count, whereas I really felt like Absalom did feel that way. And you get a lot of bang for your buck. And right now, this is actually a print-on-demand edition. I still had my map from the original one I had whenever I was a kid. But the print-on-demand is actually a little bit better for my old eyes because it's a little bit larger. The original was probably, I don't know, maybe an inch or two shorter than this one. And it makes the text a little bit larger and a little bit easier to read. But again, this is my number 2, Volos Guide to Waterdeep. And finally, my number 1, Talus. Now, Talus has been around for about 20 years now. It was actually the test campaign setting for Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition. And so it has a bit of kitchen sink to it because of that, because they had to be able to test all of the classes and the races and whatnot. But that being said, it's been redone now to be available for the Cypher system, which is what I have here, and also 5th edition. If you get the digital version, you get both for the same cost. Now, Talus, what I like about it, it's got the huge deep history that Absalom has, but it told in a way that feels much less filler and much more usable. It is a massive 650, 60-ish pages just in the primary book, and then there's over 300 pages of extras between the downloads online and the packet of goodies that comes with the book, including maps and handouts and tables and whatnot. So Talus allows you to play pretty much any type of campaign that you would be interested in within the confines of a city. There's a huge dungeon underneath Talus that is fully detailed and fleshed out with enemies and adventure seeds that are all just ripe and ready to be played through. There's multiple cities underneath the city that can be explored. And there is, if that's not enough, there's a huge tower that towers above the city that can be explored. And then on top of that, spoiler alert, there is an invisible upside down pyramid which houses the greatest wizards in Talus. On top of that, Talus offers some unique character options, some different races and whatnot. In Cypher system, it has a couple of special foci that are devoted to specific organizations in the city. The city history itself is extremely interesting. Again, spoiler alert, Talus is a prison for demons, and the spire, because this is known as the city by the spire, the spire that comes out of the ground is actually like, it's so evil that the ground is pushing it out. So there's lots of opportunities for low-level, mid-level, and high-level play here. There's a ton of deep organizations that all have interactions with each other. There are tables galore, there's items, there's spells. Anything that you need for your game is going to be in here. So like if you just had this and the Cypher System core rules, you're going to be set. You can throw in the Godforsaken expansion. That has the fantasy rules upgraded a little bit, but if you're playing this in 5e, this and your 5e core rules, you'll have a nice campaign to run as long as you want to. I believe Monty Cook, who wrote the game, ran his Talus campaign for many years, and he actually had multiple parties that played concurrently in the world, but on different nights of the week, so they would interact with each other indirectly. Talus is my favorite city campaign supplement, and it's one that you should try out as well. It is brought to you by Monty Cook Games, and you can get this from Game Nerds, and they have a great price on it. Or you can get it from Monty Cook Games and give him a little bit of extra profit. Monty Cook Games is probably my second favorite game company outside of Goodman Games. They do a lot of great stuff, and this is a perfect example of why we should be supporting a company like Monty Cook Games. Until next time, this has been Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. If you like the content, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Good gaming, and God bless.